All right, welcome into the Fantasy Addicts Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Mike the Fantasy Addict, joined by co-host Nikki B. We are streaming live on Twitch.
We'll do it live!
Oh, yeah. Had little technical difficulties, but you know, that happens when...
We'll do it live!
When you do it live.
It's true.
All right, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
It's got to be fixed now.
Let us know in the
It's got to be. I see this little audio bar thing, and it just keeps going berserk now.
There you
I
go.
think that means we're good to go.
The real question is, are we just blowing out your speakers with massive volume right now?
Yeah.
There it is. They're with us. All right, thanks for sticking with us. Pocket's still here. Banjo, hopefully we didn't lose him.
Right.
The diehards. We're happy to see you guys. And today we have the first sad news for the fantasy year. The first big injury. Cam Akers, running back for the Los Angeles Rams. People were excited. He's going to get all the volume. He's going to be a workhorse.
Yep.
Goes down with a torn Achilles and a little worse than an ACL. A lot of guys go out for the year with an ACL. Achilles, the outlook is worse than the ACL. Takes a little bit longer to rehab from. And we were talking before the show about running backs who have come back and had successful careers after blowing an Achilles.
It was a quick conversation because there's almost zero.
All right.
Basically zero. You want me to run through the list
Run
real
through
quick?
it.
All right. Let me...
Marlon Mack this year is coming off of that exact injury.
Who?
Is that correct?
I've never heard of
How
him.
does this affect Marlon Mack?
It doesn't. It doesn't at all because he's barely on a team. All right, so I got the list here. We got this is going back to 2010. Lendale White, torn Achilles, out of the league. Andre Brown, torn Achilles, out of the league. Michael LaShore, torn Achilles his rookie season and never played again. Ernest Graham tore his Achilles at 31, I believe, out of the league. Kendall Hunter tore it in 2012, age 24. He played 2 games after coming back.
Okay, we get the picture. Who is the most successful that has returned from this injury?
Arian Foster is probably the most successful.
How did he do?
3 out of 4 1,200-yard plus rushing seasons. He came back and got cut mid-season.
Not great.
Isaiah Crowell is probably another notable one from more recent.
Out of the league.
Out of the league. Never played again. So,
and the last one on the list, Marlon Mack. He could be the first to do it. Paved the way for Cam.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's not great. It's devastating.
Welcome in, fanboy. Welcome in. I know.
Hey, yep. Can Akers? No, he can't. I think that was a typo, but Cam.
Yeah.
We were talking
Akers
about
play again. That's the question.
In our Dynasty League, he is owned by our buddy Ethan, fan of the show, and Ethan's team is snake bit. As soon as a player goes on that team, I don't take them in any redraft. I don't take them in any best ball.
No, we'll keep a live updated roster of Ethan's team in the Discord, so you know not to roster any of those players.
Other players that are on his team, though, include Derrick Henry and Michael Thomas.
Yep.
So maybe if you believe in curses, some guys to avoid. And I was talking about, we went to the beer summit, and Ethan was with us. We have an owner there. Drafted him in Dynasty
owner.
In Dynasty, it's tough for this year. Again, the Achilles, we talk about, it's not been great. Honestly, if I could move him now, knowing how little the success rate for players coming off of that injury are, if you could trade him to somebody who doesn't realize quite the severity of that kind of prognosis, might be trying to move him.
If you can get a first for him, take it. Just take it and move on and be happy with it. And
if it was an Achilles, I would not advise that. I would say hold on to him, wait for him to come back next year.
Achilles.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I
that he has
misspeak?
is no bien.
All right.
At least Cam got a college
is
education.
Good. We're happy for that. I hope he picked a good major.
Well, and honestly, when I'm looking at this list, again, I'm not too sure about
his
the
British
2010,
poetry major isn't going to help him now.
I think Akers is the most notable big name and youngest player to tear his Achilles on this list. I mean,
it does have the ages on this
Arian
list.
Foster is the closest in probably production and outlook, but he tore it at 29. So it's kind of a different situation. Greg, welcome in. Go Bears indeed.
Go Bears.
I think we had Richard Sherman, which
that news
thing for Richard Sherman. He had a torn Achilles and came back and played pretty well. So even
Richard
at an older
Sherman.
age. Yeah.
I thought, you're talking about Richard. I thought you were talking about his off the field incident. He got in trouble with
it's just
Policia.
It just happens to be,
was that all related to the Achilles injury?
I think so.
Yikes.
I know. It's a tough injury.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's separate. Go Patriots. See, we got another Patriots fan here for you, Pocket. But yeah, Richard Sherman came back and played pretty well. Demaryius Thomas at 22, his rookie year, tore his Achilles, came back and was a wide receiver one for like 4 or 5 years with Peyton. So there's exceptions to the rule, but not a running back. So we'll see if he can pave a new road.
Of the Patriots, we were at the beer summit, and I offered Darrell Henderson to the Cam Akers owner for Damian Harris of the Patriots, and was denied. And now everything's coming up, Mike.
Was denied.
I think I was wearing my fancy ACDC shirt today. So I got my fancy ACDC shirt on.
I know, Bambo. Rest in pieces, Akers.
So Akers, the sadness, moment of silence. Moment's over.
Yeah.
No, again, it's sad for him. It's sad for the owners of Akers, but it's great for the guy who traded for Darrell Henderson when I didn't even have Cam Akers.
So what's the outlook on Henderson then?
Darrell Henderson.
What are you expecting as an owner?
The Fantasy Pros have bumped him up to their 20th running back on their board. I'm sorry, Fantasy Pros has him at 23. The Fantasy Footballers have him at 20 on their rankings. So in that kind of 20 range, and I like his outlook. So not only... The first thing that people will say is that he's only good for this year. So he's going to get the volume because the other guys on that team aren't great. I actually ran out and did grab his handcuff in case I decide to roll into the year with him. And I have to look back to see what that guy's name even was. He is an undrafted free agent and just was out there on the waiver wires.
Henderson won't be as good, assuming they sign a free agent running back. Cam Akers, owner, and in my league has CMC. So, yeah, I think you can still trade Akers to somebody for probably a first. Just browsing Reddit, looks like people were getting rid of him for a first or a first plus a third. Or
so the guy that I grabbed was Xavier Jones, who I think is the handcuff for him. Again, not a giant.
Can you handcuff a handcuff? I don't think so.
He's not the handcuff anymore. He's the guy.
Here's the thing: if you're a Henderson owner, I just don't. I wouldn't invest. If you're trying to trade for Henderson, I wouldn't, because they're going to sign somebody. They're going to sign somebody. They came out and said they're not going to, which is exactly what you would say if you were going to go sign somebody.
I'll make the counterpoint. I agree with Nick that it wouldn't shock me if they signed somebody, but the guys that are available right now, it's not exciting. So you've got Todd Gurley, who didn't look very good at all at the end of last year.
But he knows the system.
He does know the system. That's the one that's gotten floated out there.
And he can score touchdowns.
Makes the most sense. Could score touchdowns at the start of last year with a high-powered offense and a terrible defenses he was going against. But I wouldn't worry about him. I think that Henderson would beat him out for the job straight away.
Todd Gurley reunion, exactly.
The other one out there, Lev Bell, if he came in, but Lev didn't look good last year.
He seems washed.
Darius Geis, Nick and I kind of agree that we don't think he'll get another chance because of the off-the-field stuff. He did get cleared of one of the charges in one of his cases, but there's still some accusations out there that I don't think ever got fully cleared up. I think Henderson is a good guy to have this year. He's, again, the report that came out initially is, again, like you said, that they didn't say they're really running out there to try and find
trade
guys.
for Melvin Gordon.
That'd be interesting. That'd be the thing that could hurt him, would be them trading for a player that is already in the league. Melvin Gordon would be one that could come in. Even him, though, it's kind of a one-year deal probably, and that's a good one to float out there, is the one that could kind of mess things up. The other thing that's interesting,
Adrian Peterson's out there too. Scored 7 touchdowns last year for the Detroit Lions.
So people are out there saying, "Oh, they'll just draft a guy next year." The Rams, if you remember, have traded away many of their next year picks. So I believe they have a first and a third next year, and I don't know that they would waste the first on anybody that's out there right now. The third maybe, but even a third round running back.
They're kind of in win now mode, and honestly, they don't like first round picks. So if anything, they would just trade a first round pick for a running back.
They don't have a first round. Well, I guess they have next year. No, they're not going to trade a first for a running back. I don't believe.
If they're trying to go all in on this year, which the Stafford trade and some other trades make it seem like that, I wouldn't be shocked if they traded some valuable piece to get a running back in if they don't believe in Henderson. But I think Henderson is serviceable. Yeah. But I think they're going to definitely find another guy to take over 30 or 40% of the work.
Yeah, and right now, again, I think just Mike Davis has got a lot of people rising on a little bit, and I think that kind of right in that vein. A guy, it could be 1 year, but I think Henderson's chances to be multiple years is a little higher because of their lack of picks, because he is, I think he was taken in the third round of the NFL draft. It's pretty decent draft capital.
You know the worst part about this, though, is besides Akers getting hurt, is it throws next year into flux, too, because if Akers isn't the same guy, like now you have another year of wishy-washy backfield, that backfield was supposed to be good, and now that backfield is a mess. So
not as good.
We lost a high-end running back piece for probably 2 years at least, which is
and brutal. Then will he even be what he was if he comes back?
Kerryon Johnson, that's an interesting one. Stafford carry on reunion in LA, pretty much. Frank Gore, I can see
Not
Frank
at all.
Gore
Daryl
with a little
Henderson.
tread
I'd rather
left
have
on the
Daryl
tires.
Henderson than Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah, but I mean, they're going to sign
As far as
somebody.
talent wise.
Trade the Patriots for Sony Michel or possibly wait. Might cut Sony. I just don't think Sony Michel's very good. I feel like he's slow and non-elusive. So I'm not really too excited about Sony going anywhere. I think Melvin Gordon is an interesting one because they already drafted a running back. They could give Javonte the job and recoup a little bit of value for him.
Yeah, but they don't have a lot of depth beyond those guys. There was one that they signed that had a little bit of murmurs, but nobody that really excites you.
Duke Johnson's out there, yeah. Guys ever get clear of his awfulness? No.
So
Welcome in, Banjo.
clear some of it, but not all of it seems to be what I'm hearing.
There's so
out
many
there.
other things that he's going to get suspended and whatever for that he's not worth picking up.
Be a little bit of a PR nightmare for a 24-year-old running back.
There's a
who has had multiple
99.5%
injuries
chance
himself.
Gaius will never put on a pair of cleats in the NFL again.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Young Ho Koo's cleats, says Pocket.
Oh, yeah, we got a package from Pocket. It's a nice pair of cleats we're going to put up on the wall.
Well done on that.
Yeah, it didn't have his Young Ho's signature, but it just had a piece of tape that said Young Ho on it. So
no, we
assume
got the
that was
gist.
from you.
We appreciate the gift.
Got his car stolen. Yeah, so Young Ho, I don't know. He's going to have to hit some field goals, get that money so he can buy a new one, get some new cleats.
I like Bambo's idea here.
Hopefully they weren't his lucky cleats.
A Deshaun Jackson and Shady McCoy reunion in L.A. Shady McCoy.
Doesn't scare me at all. No. He's
You missed the Shady McCoy.
I know. No, I remember. I
heyday.
caught the end of it, but
Man.
yeah, he wasn't real exciting the last
I don't know if
couple
you
years.
saw like the snowball game. I think it was Eagles and Lions. I can't remember who the other. I think it was Eagles and Lions where they played in like a foot of snow, and I mean McCoy just ran just all day long.
Yeah. But it brings me back. The free agents that are available right now, not too excited. It's kind of the guys that nobody else wanted.
Damian Williams from the Bears.
Yeah, Damian Williams, he got picked up in our league, and it's interesting. He's interesting if David goes down, but Khalil Herbert, the running back that they drafted, has actually got a little bit of kind of hype before the draft. He went late, but he's got some talent, got some juice.
Yeah, I don't like any of these names that some of these articles are throwing out. I mean, it's something we've already talked about, but TJ Yeldon, Bo Scarborough, why?
Bo?
I mean, James Robinson, I've heard that rumor a little bit. James Robinson trade from Jacksonville. They already have the trade pipeline going with them.
There are a couple running backs that could come in and definitely take the job. There are guys that have the talent where their team has drafted other guys. But yeah, right now, I don't know if that move makes sense for them with their lack of draft capital
Ito
they
Smith,
have going into.
I think Ito Smith is just bad.
Oh, Ito's not good.
Fournette, that's an interesting one.
Well, I don't hate that because I got the Ronald Jones share. So if that is the case, but
Fournette on the Rams would eat, and he fits the profile to join them. I like that. I like that throw out.
yeah,
I'm sure
I don't
watched
think
it.
the Bucks would be too sad getting rid of him.
Kenyon Drake, maybe. Get him out of there.
Well, again, this does help your bet as far as Josh Jacobs. I think it helps him finish a little bit higher with Cam Akers out of the mix to finish above him. But maybe Henderson gets it done.
Yep. Let's see here. Aaron Rodgers turned down one more thing on the Akers thing. Since this was off team facility, they could void his contract and not pay him.
Ooh, that'd be rough. And if it was an ACL, I wouldn't even think that's a consideration. But with an Achilles and them knowing they're seeing the same stuff we do about guys not coming back from them. Man, that would be, you'd hate to see it for the guy. I would understand it from a business point of view for the football team, but
they don't have to pay him.
Also, as a football team, you got to know that all the players around the league are watching. They see what you do to guys. They see how you treat your players. And I think that might go farther than the money in certain respects.
Marlon Mack, I don't think Marlon Mack's going anywhere. I think people are overvaluing Marlon Mack, and they're not even valuing
Marlon Mack just went through the same injury, and I'm not excited for Marlon Mack's
over under
prospects.
RB 35 for Marlon Mack.
Oh, under.
Yeah.
Under, even if he goes to the Rams.
Rodgers doesn't want to practice this offseason. I get it. I understand that 100%.
He's got a new fiance, and he's probably foraging for berries and making, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing. It's a weird couple.
So the news is that they offered him a 2-year extension, which would make him the highest paid player in the NFL, but
that sounds pretty good, right?
But news is that it's not even about the money. It's about him having input with the roster and day-to-day decisions. Marcy, I didn't think you were supposed to be here. Welcome in.
All right. Hope your daughter's watching. So she said her daughter likes when we say her name. So that's Marcy.
Marcy.
There
you go.
Marcy. I think that's how you said it on the one that we were going to make the drop.
Jeopardy and golfer Aaron. Yeah, maybe he liked the Jeopardy job so much. He's like, how do I get out of this football thing?
So I had this drop queued up for talking about Aaron, and we'll play it since Marcy jumped in.
I love cheese. I love cheese. I love cheese.
There you go, Green Bay.
Rodgers has so if you're the Packers, right? I think the stat is Aaron Rodgers is like 1-4 in NFC Championship games. He can't get it done. Like, is it him? Is it the team? What?
Man, they were so close.
If you're
last
1-4,
year, how quickly people forget. They just decided to kick that field goal, and had they not, who knows what could have been? We'll never know. But it doesn't get much closer when you're that close.
But they didn't make it. I mean, so we had the same kind of thing happen with the Bulls, right? The Bulls couldn't beat LeBron. They couldn't get over the hump, and they were good. They'd get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they would lose it to LeBron's team or they'd lose to the Celtics teams. Like, they couldn't get over the hump, and Thibodeau did a great job. They had a good roster and everything, but they were never going to make it to the top. So is it worth having a really good team that can compete and isn't going to make it to the final game? Or is it better to cut your losses, trade away your pieces, and start over and try and get a roster that you think can develop into a championship team?
Honestly, the Packers might look back and very much wish that they had gone ahead and traded him before the NFL draft. But now that the teams got all set with their quarterbacks, the market is... It's just not a good time to sell him. Even if he sits out a season, I think you'll be able to sell him for more at the end of next season or mid-season. But to trade him before the season starts, I think he'd have to sit and miss time. And the Packers might just let him sit. Again, you talked about the dead cap space. If they decide to cut him before next year, it's a much larger hit if they do that.
It's larger if they do it now versus next year. So they're better off trading him after this next season, which if I was a betting man, and I've seen it on Reddit and a few other places where they're better off making him play this year, which Rodgers will play this year on the Packers, and then they'll trade him next year to another team and hopefully give Jordan Love another year of practice.
Yeah, but if he turned down a 2-year deal, this has been the most I've been, thinking that he might not come back. He turned down a 2-year deal where he was going to be the highest paid quarterback. That's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good offer for his age, for where he's at.
He's already on a 3-year deal. What's tacking on another 2 years do?
More money.
So he doesn't care about the money necessarily. He wants more.
He
input.
said he doesn't, but everybody does. And money equals respect. That's what players also you hear about is like they came back with an offer that would make him, the third highest paid quarterback, and he's like felt disrespected because he feels better than the other guys that are getting paid more. That's them saying, hey, we think you're the best. We think you're worth it. We want you to be here. I don't know, man. I don't think it's a good sign.
Yeah, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers here at tied for 5th for most money. Would you pay Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and Jared Goff more or the same as Aaron Rodgers?
They're
all about 10 years younger.
But they're not available.
I know. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he actually would return that value. He's already aging and has some other issues. So
yeah, they should have traded him away to the 49ers for the 3rd pick in the NFL draft. But hindsight,
Yeah, and they re-signed Aaron Jones.
The story is when the 49ers called, they asked, like, hey, is Rodgers available? And the Packers said, no, not at all. We're not even entertaining. We don't even want to hear the offer.
Right.
And I don't think that they fully understood where he was at with his disgruntledness and not wanting to come back and play.
I think it's one of those things like they got to say, hey, we'll give you, some help, we'll ask you what your opinion is before the draft and get your input on roster transactions.
It's like, hey, next year we got happy, but you get to make the 2nd round pick. You can even let him make
whatever guy you want.
You can let him make the 1st round pick.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's not insane.
I just don't know what else he wants. He's got a top 5 running back.
They returned his running back too, so it's not like Aaron Jones took off.
Offensive line.
It could all just be him just dragging his feet and trying to get a little bit more money or just a little more time off.
Seems hard to please. Tom Brady was at the White House today. I mean,
that's what Tom does.
Made some funny comments, I guess. I don't know.
I thought he won the presidency. Just
not exactly. Tom Brady played the whole last year with torn MCL, which is Interesting.
We have a great question from Pocket in the chat.
Yep.
How does Cam Akers' injury affect Stafford's status?
Maybe a 3% bump.
Up?
Up.
You think they're going to have to pass more because their rushing game will be less effective?
I mean, if they have to pass in 2 more touchdowns, I mean, that's probably a 2% bump. So, sure.
All right. I don't hate that take. Sometimes having that running game that, demands respect. I think their running game will still be good enough that players won't be able to just ignore the running game and kind of drop everybody back. They're still going to have to protect. Henderson, I do feel, is a very capable running back. He knows the system. He produced a couple times last year. The thing about him is he has had a little bit of injury history himself. So if it's the next guy behind Henderson, I think there's a massive drop-off in talent going from him to kind of their undrafted free agent or one of their 7th-round picks. They have, I believe, 3 running backs, 2 or 7th-rounders that they mostly have them on the team for special teams, and then the undrafted free agent. So that's not great.
Apparently there's a Drew Brees quote when he talked to Mike Tirico. Justin Herbert's forearms and hands look like he's been digging fence post holes his entire life. I mean, sure. Let's get more Herbert hype going.
The postman. Huh?
That is hilarious.
All right.
Hilarious.
So that's kind of where we're at with the news from around the league.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything.
Any other big things worthy of note?
Noteworthy things here. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right, so we want to talk about first-round draft strategies today. The first round, you can mess up the first round and still recover, but if you had to pick a place not to make a mistake, the first round would be where you didn't want to screw it up. So
ideally, yes.
I think that there are a number of different ways you can look at it, but here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to go through kind of each pick, guys that we would like in that spot, and then if you decide to take that player, how that affects kind of your next couple picks. So the first pick is pretty unanimous, Christian McCaffrey. A lot of the mock drafts that I've been doing.
I agree, Banjo, but
just Kelsey.
This is Mike's
We got
portion.
Kelsey in the first round. We'll talk about Kelsey. I don't think you can take him over Christian. Is anybody that crazy? Anybody that bullish?
I mean,
so here's the deal. Christian McCaffrey, if you go first with him, I like taking a running back again in the next round. So with picking at the first, when you have the snake draft, you pick first, and you have the longest wait until you pick a player again.
yeah, until 24.
Coming back at 24. So there are still some talented running backs available at 24. And then you got a long wait again. So when I take Christian at the first round pick, I'm much less likely to kind of go for a tight end or a quarterback in those earlier rounds. I'll probably wait and try to get one of those, a Higbee type guy, maybe an Evans for my tight end, and probably go with like a Tom Brady or somebody like that at the end of the draft process. A guy who's interesting out there, Carson Wentz, if you want to grab him up and just see how it goes, you can stream that position with quarterback. There are a lot of usable quarterbacks. Some of the rookies, they are usually undrafted. So like if Trevor Lawrence or Trey Lance gets a job right away, if Fields comes out and grabs a job, all of those guys should have some decent fantasy outlook going into it.
Well, I just think, too, if you're picking in the top 3, if you have a top 3 pick, when you come around again for your second pick, you're choosing between CEH, Dobbins, Swift, Carson, Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson. So
I don't even hate grabbing a third running back.
It just gets pretty thin there when you come around for your second pick. I mean, if you go Christian McCaffrey, then J.K. Dobbins, you feel okay about your running back room. You feel pretty positive about it. If you wait on that pick and you have to pick a running back with your third pick, you're looking more like Kareem Hunt, Chase Edmonds, Javonte Williams, Raheem Mostert.
It dries up fast after that third round.
Very
and I think
quickly.
that
Mike
is
Davis.
a huge reason that I have been going running back, if not running back. The first 3 picks, running backs, because it just gets bleak after that. A lot of times when I've been doing that strategy, I'm getting like a T. Higgins, that level kind of guy. Cortland Sutton's out there. Jerry Jeudy, if you believe that he's going to have the Denver their offense, I'm a little bit worried about. But those are just a couple of examples of some wide receivers.
Chad's
that can pan
upset
out.
you didn't say Fields. I mean, you left
I
Fields.
said Fields.
Did you? All right.
Pocket is simply pointing out that I said if Fields gets the job, and breaking news, Pocket is saying it's Fields. It's not Dalton.
How many games has
The
Dalton started before
QB1
Fields comes
picture on Twitter was just a farce, just a red herring to throw everyone off the scent. Man, but
Dalton's going to start.
the thing about Fields and Lance is if they start right away, even if they're a little rocky, kind of getting everything down, their legs, they're going to create with their legs and score points rushing. So I like them. I don't hate the idea of just taking one of those guys and just toss them on your bench with your last pick in the draft.
For sure.
Because those last pick guys are usually guys you can drop. So that first week, if all of a sudden Trevor Lawrence comes out and is just everything that everybody hoped he would be, then you got him for
Hey, Marcy, nothing. Can you make her watch on another account on her phone so we get the views?
All right. Have a good night. Yep. Yeah, that's a good excuse. Hang out with your kids. Everybody appreciate your kids.
Wait, Pocket's leaving?
Oh, Pocket? No, he's just ignoring his
she's
kids.
here, got to go. I thought you meant she's here and we're watching.
Pocket says, forget those kids.
Right? Get them out of here.
I got it. That's right.
We can already hear the kid.
We're ignoring ours right now. So.
Oh, man. That's why we do this. Fanboy's back. Perfect.
All right.
Thank
you go.
Goodness.
We lost the Marcy, but we got a fanboy.
Yeah. It's just meant to be. It was
it's
just
all
meant
coming
to be.
together. So the next one after Christian McCaffrey, the second round pick, pretty unanimous, Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had a very good year last year. Always a little bit of concern for injury, but the Vikings still want to run the ball. I predict that their offense is going to get things going a little bit better this year. I think their defense will be better, so they don't have to run as much. So Dalvin will be the guy pounding the rock. Next one on the board. Some people are taking Kamara here. Kamara has been very good. There's always a reason every year I feel like that I try to doubt him, and then he finishes in the top 3 over and over
because Ethan
again.
owns him.
That is terrifying. There is a curse. But Kamara's been on his team a couple of years and not gone down, right?
No.
So maybe Kamara's...
He's got... who's he have? He has Akers and...
I don't even think he has Kamara.
He doesn't have Kamara.
There we go. Curse solved.
Worth it. Thanks, fanboy. See? He gets it. Pocket skipping family dinner, and fanboy goes, it's worth it.
Absolutely.
It's high praise.
That's all right.
High praise.
You'll see him tomorrow.
I think if you get McCaffrey, Cook, and Henry, you're kind of in the same situation. You've committed to running back in the first. I don't think you're going to pick up, and it would be nice to take Michael Thomas or Keenan Allen or Allen Robinson with your second pick, and you have a really high-end wide receiver and running back combo. But again, your next running back option after that is going to be Mike Davis as your RB2 or Kareem Hunt as your RB2.
Some of those times,
Chase Edmonds
if
as your RB2.
If you're picking at the 3-4, maybe you can get Clyde Edwards-Helaire or J.K. Dobbins with your third pick. I like that a lot. Those are guys I've been targeting all over the place. I could see them rising up a little bit, but we're getting close now where the guys that haven't shot up the board yet.
Yeah. In my mind, I think if you have a top 3 pick and you go McCaffrey, Cook, Henry, something like that, you go running back, you have to take a running back with your second pick.
So the first 6 picks of the draft, I would go running back. The picks I've got, Christian, Dalvin, Derrick Henry, Kamara, Chubb, Jonathan Taylor. Those 6 guys I would take in whatever order in the first if they fell to me.
I think if you're more in that range, when you come around for your second pick, you're going to be able to get DK, AJ Brown, some of the more high-end wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins. So you can go wide receiver, and then you can still grab a Josh Jacobs or Dave Montgomery or a DeAndre Swift at that third pick. So I think you're probably still safe going running back, wide receiver if you're more in the 4 to 6 range, I think, in the first.
Yep. So then at pick 7, that's where our guy, Travis Kelce, that's probably the highest I would take Travis. And if you go Travis, I would definitely recommend your next pick be running back because kind of what we're saying, it just dries up fast. The drop off between those elite running backs and the next tier is a lot bigger drop off than between those elite wide receivers and the next tier wide receivers.
Well, it doesn't make sense to draft Kelce for the positional advantage and then go wide receiver and create a huge running back deficit on your team that you have to overcome a positional disadvantage the whole time. So I think wide receiver is a lot easier to make up those points from, wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 15. But running back, 5 to running back 15 is a huge point disparity.
Absolutely. So in the chat, it says, do you guys trust Cook to stay healthy this year? I do, only because he stayed healthy last year. It's a longer season, but, injury can hit everybody. Because he wasn't injured last year, that makes me think that there's not a reason to think he's more likely to get injured than any other guy on the list because he stayed healthy through all of last year. Didn't have any injuries that should flare up or reoccur or cause him to compensate using one part of his body more than he would normally, leading to injury.
So I would agree. I'm going to propose another question. Chat, get involved in this too. Do you think as the NFL adds more games and we're likely going to an 18-game season here as we get along, do you think that will devalue the running back position and make it more muddled? Do you think since it's so many games, it's unlikely that a running back is going to stay healthy and not get beat up throughout the season, that they're going to go more running back by committee? Do you think that's just going to become the way of the NFL and it's going to be the best of the committee backs, or do you think there will still be enough, workhorse guys?
I think they'll still be workhorses. It's only one more game, but it's not nothing. I think that just for fantasy, I'm trying to load up with more running backs than I have in the past, just because I think there are games that maybe they kind of give a guy a rest. Also, with a longer season, it'll be interesting to see how much that makes it where teams realize that they're out of it sooner. All right, so if you've lost 5 games, you feel more optimistic than you've lost 6 games. Stuff like that. Like, do they shut it down a little bit earlier? Do they save guys because they know they're not competing? It'll be a lot to learn from this year, having them adding a game.
Corner's only good if Crablegs is at quarterback. I think Winston has the job. I know there's been reports of Taysom Hill leaving, but there's no freaking way. There's no way they're giving Taysom Hill the ball to start games. There's no chance.
It could be misdirection. Really, it'll be telling when we see those preseason games. If Taysom's the guy who they bench the first couple games and Jameis is out there, and if Jameis goes out there as like the second quarterback who gets more time in the preseason and he looks terrible, then maybe I get off him. But for now, I think that he's going to be the guy.
Fanboy says Damian Harris thoughts next year. Bad.
So I think Damian Harris is a decent value this year. I think he's a lot more valuable if Mac Jones takes the job than if Cam Newton has the job, because he'll be able to run in touchdowns, which is really where he's going to make his fantasy points. And with Cam Newton, he actually rushed in more touchdowns than a number of running backs and most for quarterbacks last year. It really hurt the running backs on that team.
Over under RB 25.
This coming year, he could be right in that range. I think his ceiling is capped. He's probably, running back 20 would be about as high as I could see him finishing. But
he's going to be a disappointing RB3, and I just don't think we're able to start him.
I'll paint the scenario where it works. Mac Jones wins the job. He's in there by week 2 or 3. Damian Harris takes over. He's the main guy. Najee, or not Najee, what's the guy? Ramondre the Giant, the guy that I like that they drafted in the 4th round. He just doesn't pan out. He's not good. And he gets all the rushing work. Sony Michel goes away because he's not great. Next year he won't be there. They didn't renew his pick up his option. And James White is also he's on a 1-year deal. So James White will probably be out of there. The big worry for Harris is that the Patriots sign a high-end free agent or they get somebody in the draft. But
the Patriots finished 23rd in total rushing last year. And I just don't think that's going to improve. And that's with actually, I correct myself.
So here's a simple question.
They finished RB 28.
Do you think that Damian Harris next year has a much better outlook than this year? Let's say Cam Newton's gone. It's Mac Jones is the guy. I think yes. I think I would rather have him next year than this year. If you gave me just a prop bet right now, which year will he finish higher for fantasy points, I would pick next year than this year. But I think he's going to be relevant this year, but not a league winner. That's how I look at Damian Harris.
All right. I'm giving bad information. I want to correct myself and form my comeback. You go ahead.
You blew it!
Go ahead.
All right, so we'll go on. After those first 6, you got Kelsey. If you pass on Kelsey, you're probably going to have to take Waller or Kittle in either the 2nd or 3rd round if you want to get one of those elite tight ends. Otherwise, you could probably get Pitts right now in the 5th. I worry that he'll climb up a little bit and kind of go in the 4th, which that's risky. But again, I think the targets will be there for him. They did get rid of Julio. That opens up a lot of opportunity. He was drafted to be a centerpiece of this offense.
All right, I'm going to correct it now. They finished 4th, but Cam Newton had like a third of their yards. So if you take out Cam Newton's yardage, they finished middle of the pack. And again, you've had Sony Michel there. You've had Damian Harris a year as well. Nobody's been good in that backfield since LeGarrette Blount.
People were projecting the breakout for Damian Harris last year's guy that you could take and kind of be a game changer. And I think it was a finger injury that he had.
I don't think he's terrible. I just don't think they commit to the run enough for him to be
drafted him in a good spot where he's got the draft capital in the NFL
Then why didn't they give him the ball last year?
He was injured.
Sure.
And Cam ran it in.
Pocket says Singletary or Moss or stay away.
Stay away.
I'm okay with taking one of them as
here.
I would take Moss as my RB3 late, but I'm not trying to start him every week.
No, hard pass. Hard pass.
If I had to pick between the two, I would take Moss because I think he'll get the goal line opportunity. But I think you saw what it is last year. Moss has injury concerns. I would almost rather where they're going take a handcuffed kind of guy for one of the high end running backs. Like if I could take one of those guys or Gus Edwards and I had J.K. Dobbins, I would take Gus Edwards.
Okay. Yeah, I would.
I don't think
Gus
that team's going
Edwards
to
or
run the
Moss?
ball at all.
I think they'll run it more than they did last year because
I don't think
they're
so.
going to go back and watch all the games and watch Josh Allen just getting smoked all the time. It's like, oh, we should probably not do this again next year.
I think they're going to run less.
Sleeper league winners next year. What do you mean? What do you mean?
So some sleeper players that are going to be league winners next year.
I keep thinking sleeper app. When I see sleeper, I'm like, sleeper app for sure.
A guy I like that is not getting a lot of hype. I think that if you can find the
Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon. No, Nick can talk about Trey. I think if you can find value on the Raiders, those guys are going late. So if Ruggs kind of has a second-year breakout, Bryan Edwards is a guy I like. He's kind of a bigger-bodied wide receiver if he can get some touchdowns. Other guys late I like. Jalen Reagor went in the first round to the Eagles. We have a pretty strict no Eagles policy, but let's say that Smith comes in and busts and he's too small for the NFL and Reagor can get all the volume. He's going real late. He's a guy that I'll be interested to see how things go. Other guys that I traded, Darrell Henderson was a guy.
Josh Jacobs, Mike Evans, Allen Robinson, CeeDee Lamb.
These are high-end guys. These aren't sleepers.
Mike Thomas. No, these are sleepers because they're so devalued right now.
No,
You get
that's
them
not
so
a
late.
sleeper. Those are maybe values.
Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon. Talk about Trey Sermon. Do your obligatory weekly Trey Sermon rant.
No, you can watch our last video. We got to get more views
Oh,
on
no.
last
Yeah,
video.
preach.
Trey Sermon, because he's the only one they've invested in on the whole running back committee. Everybody else gets hurt. Trey Sermon, if he can stay healthy, will rush for over 800 yards and probably over 1,000.
There you go. So after Kelsey, I'm still hitting the running backs,
Tariq Cohen.
except for if you get to pick 8 and Tariq Hill is there. Of all the wide receivers, I think he's the safest. He's the number one wide receiver on his team. The next best guy isn't going to push him for wide receiver touches. Travis Kelce's really the second target, so he's a tight end. They do different things. Pat Mahomes is an elite quarterback. That offense has been together. They have continuity. They're a high-powered offense. They're going to score points. Tyreek Hill is maybe the only wide receiver I want to go with at kind of that high in the first round.
Tyreek Hill, again, the thing that scares me the most is how many targets and how many catches he gets. Because he'll finish games, a lot of games, with 4 or 5 catches, which for any mortal human would be not enough.
But they're big and he scores touchdowns.
But that's the thing. I mean, at some point you have to buy into the points and not look at the few targets and receptions. Because if I see that out of a 1-year guy, like, I'm worried and I'm probably going to stay away. But he's done it for enough years in a row now. Like, he's a very, very safe wide receiver. Not a whole lot of injury history, really. He's been okay. I mean, it's really the off-the-field stuff that you have to worry about still, I think. At least for Dynasty.
That
Redraft,
TikTok he posted makes you worry, but...
Yeah, a little insensitive.
Anyway, it's just tone deaf. But anyways, another comment in the chat is that Allen got beat up last year. He won't be able to last many more years taking that beating. Talking about Josh Allen, the quarterback. With him rushing it, my inflammatory prediction of the week is that the Bills will miss the playoffs. And why? I think because if Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs goes down, they're in a bad spot. I know that Nick likes Gabriel Davis, but they're not going to be able to do what they want to do if either of those guys miss this time.
Yeah, but if Matt Stafford goes down, the Rams will miss the playoffs.
Their running game is trash. They lucked out last year playing a lot of bad teams, and teams are kind of reworking
Dak Prescott
their
goes
team.
down, the Cowboys.
Their division's going to be better, more steady this year. The Patriots are returning a lot of guys. Their defense is going to be a lot better. Miami picked up a lot of offensive weapons. Tua, they're kind of going to him. Maybe you believe in Tua, maybe you don't. Tua equals ham sandwich, but
I think that's a lukewarm take.
I think that the Bills are going to struggle this year, and people are projecting them to win that division, and I think they might not even make it out.
I don't think you can project injuries necessarily here. I think they'll win at least 10 games.
I just think they're putting too much on 2 guys, and I think that teams are going to be better against them.
Why do you think it's too much on 2 guys? I mean, Cole Beasley had almost 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah, Beasley's a guy you might want to grab late in a PPR. That's a good value that you can use as a piece.
He's not even going to be on the team.
But then what? You just started the argument with Cole Beasley.
I used the argument for last year that they spread it around. They spread
Cole Beasley.
I mean, Gabe Davis had 600 yards receiving.
Outrageous.
I mean, they spread it around. I don't know.
Inflammatory.
I think you're just trying to make injuries happen, and they.
I don't know.
Yeah, Beasley's going to get cut. I'd say there's an 80% chance Beasley's not on the roster.
Beasley's the second best wide receiver on the team.
Wrong. Yeah,
who's the second best wide receiver on the team?
Gabe Davis. Easy. Easy. He would have outscored Cole Beasley last year if he didn't have all the penalties.
Nothing for you.
So moving on. After Hill, if you decide to take him,
You have to go running back then.
Chubb, Eckler, Akers are the next guys that I had on the list. Akers, sorry, you're no longer there. So with the last two picks, the 11 and the 12, you're at the turn. So you're going to take a pick. If you're at the 11, you have two picks before you and then another pick. And obviously, if you're at the turn, it's a pick and then another pick. And that is where I am thinking maybe you try the zero RB strategy where you go wide receiver, wide receiver. The reason is because people are taking all those elite guys. There could be as many as 10 of the top workhorse running backs off the board. So you don't have those kind of elite of the elite guys.
And what pick are you talking about now? Pick
11 or 12. I think you can go wide receiver, because the guys that have fallen, if everybody went heavy on running backs, are the tops of the tops for wide receivers. So you could start off with like Ridley and Justin Jefferson, or Ridley and Keenan Allen. You know, you could get those high-level guys where they can be so good. You could have and you can also get another elite wide receiver at your third pick. So I did it. I did a zero RB mock today, and I just had studs for the wide receivers. My running backs that's the problem, is you get like Mike Davis and Myles Gaskin. But if your wide receivers are the top of the top because you took them at the turn, you're going to be all right with those more middling running backs.
And if a lot of teams go double RB or one RB and one wide receiver, I mean, at the third round, if you're in the middle rounds of the pick, I mean, you're still going to be able to grab DeAndre Swift or Chris Carson, Montgomery, the same kind of guys, Josh Jacobs at 21. You could still go high-end RB or high-end wide receiver, and then get Josh Jacobs as your RB1, which
so let's
go wide receiver.
Let's see if Nick can queue up a quick simulation. We'll pick from the 12 spot. So, yep, just restart. You might have to change the settings.
Let's see.
So, Nick will mess with that. But we'll do one real quick where we'll pick wide receiver, and see what running backs are left, and we'll tell you about it. We won't throw it up on the screen.
We're going 12?
Yep, from the 12.
All right.
Here we go. So, half PPR, drafting from the 12 spot. And I think guys, again, like Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs sometimes falls to that point. Devontae Adams, if you're worried about Rodgers, I get it, but still Devontae. Jordan Love, if he wasn't a guy that they picked before and he sat and you had a couple negative reports, if he was just drafted to be the quarterback of a team, like let's say you went to Denver, people would be jumping up and down excited for his prospects, but we haven't seen him on the field.
Whiff would be awesome if Jamal Williams wasn't hanging around. I think you're giving too much credence to Jamal Williams. I think he's solid, but I'm not.
I like Jamal Williams. I think he'll be involved. I'm less worried about Jamal Williams taking stuff from Swift. I'm more worried about the Lions' offense as a whole.
I would agree. I mean, were we worried about Jamal Williams when Aaron Jones was the top 5 running back?
That's a great point. But again, the worry is that obviously the Lions' offense is not going to be as good.
But I also think the Lions don't have the same receiving options, and they may have to rely on those running backs more. So it's really what kind of play style really that they're going to come out with is
just the Lions historically have not wanted to give one guy all of the rushing. They haven't had great running back history.
All right, so we're going to draft Devontae Adams with the 12.
And go my guy Calvin Ridley.
Well, it's too late. I already clicked.
Oh, well, again, we get 2 in a row.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. All right, so we go Devontae Adams, and we're going to go Calvin Ridley.
All right, for our first 2 picks. So that is the 1-12 and the 2-1.
Indeed.
So we'll let the simulation run.
We'll let it go. Let it go.
It's happening.
All right. Simulation is run, and now we're looking at Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson.
So don't even go to the running backs yet. Let's take one more wide receiver.
Let's take another wide receiver?
Who's there for our third wide receiver?
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, the Cowboys. Mike Evans is there. He's been solid for a lot of years.
Godwin Woods.
Let's just take Amari Cooper because we'll have another pick right away where we get to get a running back. So
let's take CD.
You want to take CD? All right. People are rising on CD. I like him. I like him a lot. I don't know if he's as high as where people are going in redraft.
I'm in it.
So now, if you do this strategy, the next couple guys that are still available, you got Miles Sanders, who I'm out on, but Darrell Henderson, who just became the workhorse for the Rams. You got Mike Davis, who's definitely going to get all the carries for the Falcons. Travis Etienne, a rookie who some of the reports have held his value down, but I think he's going to come in and kind of explode. That one could shoot up boards if he looks good in the preseason. Javonte Williams, another rookie that people are excited on. And then Damian Harris is in the next area after that. Ronald Jones, I think, is way too low as far as his average draft price right now. I think he's a steal. So you can still get some very serviceable running backs. you're not excited about them if you don't have top-notch wide receivers. But when you have those wide receivers, if they can put up, even if one goes off a week, they have kind of week winning potential on their own.
Yeah. So who would you take of these running backs here?
So
Honestly, this list of running backs, I'm not super high on. There's a lot of names
but
here
they're
that I
serviceable
really don't like.
for this strategy. Why don't we go Mike Davis for Atlanta? Because
See,
Atlanta's still a pretty high-powered
I think
offense.
Mike Davis is the worst of the picks.
Interesting.
Honestly, this is where I'd actually take Miles Sanders.
All right.
Surprisingly.
Well, he's the guy.
Or Travis Etienne and just
Let's go
buy in.
ETN. So
Okay.
ETN will be our first guy. We'll take the gamble.
I'm into it.
We'll jump back to the chat real quick. Beasley equals a Belichick guy. Just a small white wide receiver who catches the ball. Yeah, they've had some luck with that. My hot take next year is that Calvin Ridley is the best receiver in the league next year.
Oh, I like that.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen, Calvin. I think that I saw that the Vegas odds has him as the number one, most likely to finish as the wide receiver 1. So, man, the team wants to throw. Their defense isn't very good. Calvin has been very good. He gets touchdowns. I like a lot of things about Calvin. I just pray for his health, him and Christian. I just go to bed every night like, dear baby Jesus, please protect Calvin Ridley and Christian McCaffrey. Make their knees, just bless their knees.
All right. So who looks like we're on the board again? And I mean, are you taking another running back, or are you punting on running back for a while?
So now I think you do go 2 running backs. If you take wide receiver, this is where I'm just taking like 4 or 5 running backs in a row. So
do you think there's any difference value wise between, let's say, Raheem Mostert and Michael Carter? Do you think there's a huge discrepancy in value and potential?
Raheem Mostert's on a much better offense, and if he can be that guy, I know that you like Trey Sermon, but like Javonte Williams is probably the one I would take here. Hope that he can overtake Melvin Gordon sooner than later. And
a little risky going double rookie.
He might not be a great guy to start right at the beginning of the season, but if we can find a guy a little later who can just have the first couple games. So let's say Mostert would be a nice pick if you can get him coming back, because Nick and I are both projecting Trey Sermon to take over that job and him to be gone. But Mostert could be very effective for the first 3 or 4 games of the season while you wait on those 2 rookies we drafted to kind of get established and take over the job.
Yeah. Let's see. Ridley draft value isn't with it this year. It can get similar value 3 or 4 rounds later, not worth second round pick. Ridley is gonna be a top 12 wide receiver. I mean,
if healthy, and I think
for sure with health, but I just don't see how he doesn't finish as a wide receiver 1. Is he wide receiver top 3? I don't think so. He finished what, as high as 5th?
Yeah, I think 4th, 5th, depending on the format you were playing.
I think he could definitely reproduce those numbers, but honestly, I just don't like rooting for Calvin Ridley either. I'd rather.
It's because I've got him, so I get it.
No, I mean, I would.
We got to root against each other's guys.
If we're talking in the same group, I'd rather have Hopkins or DK Metcalf or
all these flavors,
Stephon
and you
Diggs.
chose to be salty.
I'm not salty. I just like to play.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb.
There's nothing flashy about Calvin Ridley. He just catches a lot of passes.
Gets the ball, great route running, gets a touchdown.
Yeah,
my guy last year. But I agree. I think that that's why I liked him a lot last year, is because he was going 3rd, 4th round, and now the draft, the price you have to pay for him is so high that I will likely go running back over Calvin in most situations.
All right, so we took Travis Etienne, and then I drafted without your consent Kyle Pitts.
All right, so Pitts, what round do we get him in? The 5th?
The 6th.
So I like Kyle Pitts a lot if you can get him in the 6th round. There are some analysts that are saying, oh, he's a rookie tight end. Rookie tight ends don't produce. I get that. That's a decent argument if you're trying to be predictive, but I just think that the targets are going to be there.
He's got upside.
He isn't the same as all the tight ends that have gone. There have been tight ends with hype. His hype and outlook is higher than all of those guys has been. He went highest in the NFL draft.
He's the best tight end prospect ever.
That's
in the history of the game, he's the best tight end prospect there's been.
And will that translate? If it doesn't, it's a great
Who are we to say
you
the
learn
NFL
a big
is
lesson
wrong
if you
about
take
this?
him.
Who are we to say?
Hey, but the other thing I know is that I think he could very much be the second option for the passing game on that team.
He will be.
The Falcons have used tight ends effectively in the past. They made Austin Hooper worthy of millions of dollars.
I still think it's likely he finishes 5 or 6, but he has that potential of being the one. How many guys from the same team do you want? Ridley, Davis, Pitts? I wouldn't want 3. I think 2 is my max, including quarterback. I think 2. I don't want any more than 2.
I think that depending on the team and depending on the guys and depending on where they fall. So, like, if I So I don't look to try to do that. I don't like to stack, even with the quarterback wide receiver position. That's another question when you're doing draft strategy. Do you like to stack? If I just happen to get an elite stack where I get Mahomes and Hill, fine. Psyched about it. I like that.
I just can't imagine a situation as well where you're going to get 3 of the same guys, especially non-quarterback. I mean, if Mahomes,
I think
Kelsey,
this draft
Hill,
right here, we do Ridley Davis Pitts, right? That's probably why you brought it up.
Did we?
I think so. So
I don't think we did Davis.
the Cowboys are
do
one.
Davis.
If I could get Amari and CD and Dak, like if you can get the high-scoring offenses.
Would you do Kelsey at 11, and then Hill at
So you're on the
2-2,
turn and they fell.
2-2, and then Mahomes in the third.
Yeah, Mahomes probably won't be there for you at the third, but yeah, like that offense. When you look at the guys that have the most points at the end of the week, those guys have the most points, and I want the guys that have the points.
That's a different situation.
The problem, there's
I'd
a
be more
bye week
interested
that
in
you'll have to figure out what you're going to do if your team
you just
makes
lose
you start.
that.
Yeah,
You just have to
that's-
make the
You're
playoffs.
punting. You're
That's-
punting the bye week for sure. Also, some of those teams, if they with the longer season, like I said, you might know you're in the playoffs ahead of time, and
then you can rest them.
and then they rest them. That's the problem with some of those elite teams that have those big guys. It's like I've got 3 great Kansas City players, and they all decided to sit their players the last game that I needed them to come through.
Does the extra game make it more likely or less likely that players will get rested?
I think more likely. I think more likely because you'll just know. Like you'll know that your team has made the playoffs.
There's more games to establish.
You can make
gap.
a bigger gap. Absolutely.
I would agree.
Nailed
So
it.
We'll have to keep an eye on that for sure.
Does
as
it
we
feel
get through
good
the
to be a
season.
champion? Yeah.
Well, especially when they add the
it feels
18th
good to be
game,
a
I think that's going to affect it even more. So it'll be interesting to
That's
see how
happening
that
next
shakes
week, right?
out. Right, exactly.
Winning.
All right, I think we're pretty much done with this draft. We already got Kyle Pitts. We still need a quarterback or a wide receiver. But
Just gives you a little bit of an idea. And
hey,
you know,
Trey Sermon's still here. We're drafting Trey Sermon.
Oh, it's happening.
It's just coming full circle.
Ronald Jones, another guy I like. Trey Sermon.
Never heard of her.
I know Nick hates him. I'm rising on James Conner a little bit. I think that he's going to get the goal line work. He's on a high-powered offense. The health stuff, it seems
All
like
right,
he's
so we
pretty
went
good.
wide receiver to start at the 12-1 turn.
So read them the handful of running backs we were able to come up with after that.
This is our team without quarterback and defense. Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, and CeeDee Lamb. If you're in a dynasty league, that is
yeah, that's not going to be what you get in Dynasty.
man, that is nice.
And it does. But being in Dynasty has been good for our redraft because we know who these rookies are. We've studied them. We have a good idea of their outlook and kind of their projection for the year. But scroll down and go ahead and tell them the other running backs we were able to get in those later rounds.
Then we have Trey Sermon.
Oh, okay. So we could keep going.
You can keep going. I mean, the guys on the board left that we could pick are
Ronald Jones. We'll
James
take Ronald
Conner, Jones, Melvin Gordon. I mean,
Michael
we
Carter.
already have Javonte. You might as well add Melvin Gordon to the list.
Jamal Williams, starting running back for the Lions. Sounds good, right?
AJ Dillon, Tariq Cohen. That's a good one. Yeah, there's still a few names on here. Don't do it, Mike. Don't you do it. Your RBs are so bad. ETN and Javonte, I mean, they could both finish top 15. I'm not saying they will, but I mean, it's not that far fetched. They're both high end prospects, and we just saw Gibson, JT, Swift, and who else? From last year, and Akers and Dobbins. You had 5 running backs last year finishing the top 20 running backs from last year.
And again, most of those guys came on
that's a
strong
COVID year.
at the end. So
For sure.
Again, I like you. That's a good point. The COVID year, they had less time to get established. They didn't have the preseason, didn't have those workouts beforehand, so it took them a little bit longer to get going.
Yeah.
It still does classically take the running backs and the wide receivers a little bit of time to get established, take over. Justin Jefferson,
Running backs
great
less
year, didn't play the first couple games. So that's why if you can get some of these other guys, some of the older guys like a Melvin Gordon, guys that are going to be good at to start and lose a job. Melvin Gordon, Raheem Mostert.
And you can take those guys, but I would look to trade them early. I mean, it's okay to
Yeah,
draft
if
a
you
guy with the
can.
strategy of trying to trade him out pretty quickly.
I like it a lot.
Honestly, Darrell Henderson might be one of those guys. You throw him out there the first couple weeks, he puts up 15 points. I'd get rid of him and trade him for another running back if you can.
Find your team taco, the guy that makes bad trades.
You got bamboozled.
Bamboozle him.
I mean, Josh Jacobs, you said, is a rough stretch to start. Josh Jacobs goes 8 points. Darrell Henderson goes 15-15. Swapsies. I'd be pretty happy with that.
I don't like Jacobs, but that's a great move. And I actually, you found the scenario where Jacobs ends up on my team.
I knew I'd turn you over
To the moon.
I'd get you there. All right, well, we'll start wrapping it up here. You got any final thoughts here? Chat, get in here with the questions. You got any final not start sit questions? We're not there yet, but trades or drops or ads or what do you got? Drake is behind Jacobs, way far behind.
I actually did see a report come out that let me find the exact wording.
All right,
worded kind of interesting, and I just want Nick to pop a vein and lose his mind here, but
I'll rage. I'll freaking do
will.
it. We can talk about our trade offer.
All right, tell him.
So Mike offered me Aaron Jones for my DeAndre Hopkins. I'm pretty stacked at wide receiver running back, and Mike is pretty good at
stacked at running back. You have two very good running backs.
I'm stacked. I
And
mean,
one
we only have to
that's
start
probably
two.
good.
How is that not stacked?
3 running backs.
With how few running backs there are,
In a
I am
17
stacked at
game
running
season.
back. I have Nick Chubb, I have DeAndre Swift, and Jonathan Taylor. I don't know.
And then who?
What do you mean, and then who?
And then who?
Who else
Any
do I
other
need?
running backs? Any other
I
running
have
backs?
2
at
and then a
all?
backup. What do you mean?
There you go.
What else do I need? I have 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years. That's who I have. Chris Carson, over under 8 games. Who is a Seattle backup? I will say under, and there'll be no other running back of note on the team. Same with Eckler. I will take the over on. I think Eckler plays most this season. I'm okay with Eckler. I think he finishes probably back end RB1. I like Eckler this year.
All right, I found it. Sorry, it took me a little while.
Fine.
This is the quote. All right, so this is from Kenyon Drake. The quote is, "I feel like I might have a big role," unquote, with the Raiders. So Kenyon Drake signed a 2-year, $11 million contract. That's not nothing. That's more than a lot of the guys that are on $1 million prove-it deals. With the Raiders, with $8.5 million fully guaranteed. So for context, Drake's average annual salary is the 13th highest at this position. The RB recently alluded to having a big role on the Raiders offense, saying, "I'm definitely excited to see how our roles continue to develop, with obviously Josh Jacobs being the main guy to do what he needs to do, because I have much respect and love for him." Unwarranted. And his game with Gruden as the coach. But
He's only going to make $3 million this year, and then they've backed it all up.
But I
the next
feel
year
like
at
I might have a
$8
big
million.
role in this offense, with them being a top 10 offense last year. I don't know if that's accurate. The sky is the limit for us. Incorrect. I'm ready to see us take it to the next level.
I just don't see it happening. Kenyon Drake will get no more than 25% of the work.
You are fake news.
That's it. I mean, I don't know how much more we have to bet on this.
No, we've already made the bet. The bet has been made.
People, whenever we get...
I'm warning people off Josh Jacobs. Nick is still in.
I'm warning him,
We'll see who wins.
but he's at RB21.
That's
He's
the
at
thing.
RB21.
So it's fallen.
I don't even like him as a top 5 guy, but he's a top 14.
That's
He's
the
not
bet.
21.
100 bones that he finishes outside the top 14.
Jordan Howard to L.A. I just don't think the Eagles are going to trade to L.A.
We keep saying guys to LA that don't help them. They're not like, maybe as a depth piece, but Jordan Howard.
They don't move the needle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see...
If they bring in guys like that, I'm still very high on Darrell Henderson.
The only guys that make sense, and I still don't think they do, would be Leonard Fournette, like you mentioned, James Robinson.
Melvin Gordon
if you want
and
to.
James Robinson. Those
Melvin
are the two
Gordon.
that you said that kind of make sense that you'd worry about them taking the starting role right away.
Drake will get all the passing down work. There is no passing down work. That's the thing.
I
mean,
think they're going
it
to be
just goes
passing
to
a lot
Waller,
with
and then they
their
run.
offense trailing and their defense leaking like a sieve. Offensive linemen just letting people crush. Poor Carr. Whoever their backup is. It still Mariota there?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I
Mariota
believe so.
comes in, hates Josh Jacobs, only throws it to Kenyon Drake.
Chris Thompson to
And Nick weeps.
LA. Who knows? All right. Any other Jacobs value is way down. But again, if there was a reason you could give me, I would be like, okay, that makes sense. But his situation hasn't changed at all.
His offensive line has gotten worse. They brought in
hasn't
Kenyon
gotten worse.
Drake.
They already
have
had
a
a
tough
terrible
start of
offensive line.
season schedule.
Kenyon Drake sucks.
Josh Jacobs is a year older with a lot of miles on him.
Josh Jacobs is 23 years old.
He's older, though, and he's got miles.
How does he have miles?
He's ran for 1,000,000 yards. That's why he was a running back 8 last year, because he had 1,000 yards.
So
of just
now we're
running into
fading him
people.
because he had a good year. Zeke has a bunch of yards on him too, and
I'm
he's
fading
still
Zeke
fine.
because of his yardage,
I just
and
don't
almost Henry. One more year.
That's
Henry.
why you
One
guys
more
are
year.
going to lose. Fading the wrong guys.
You wait
Fading
for it.
the
All
wrong
these guys,
guys.
week 3, all done. Pollard is a star.
I just want to bet my house that Jacobs will finish top 14.
Top 14.
Yeah.
So confident.
Yeah, it's-
Look at those guys
it's
ahead of
gonna
him. There are a
happen.
lot of talented running backs out there.
There's not enough.
I think there are. There's probably at least 19.
There's no way. There's no way.
Take a look at them. You don't have to do it right now. Well, you want to read them off?
Who will finish ahead of Jacobs? McCaffrey, Cook, Henry, Kamara, Barkley, Zeke, JT, Chubb, Aaron Jones, and that's where I'm over the
Austin
guarantees.
Eckler, Antonio Gibson. You like Joe Mixon? I don't like Joe Mixon.
I like Joe Mixon.
We'll say Joe Mixon finishes at 20 with.
But I'm just saying, there's no guarantee.
Najee,
Eckler finishes the
people
season.
like-
There's no guarantee. Mixon finishes the season.
CH,
Najee Harris
Dobbins.
is a rookie. CH, he was not very good last year. Dave Montgomery sucks. He's a jag. Chris
David
Carson
be
gets
good.
hurt all the time. DeAndre Swift's on a bad offense. J.K. Dobbins is the RB2 on his team. Miles Sanders sucks. I mean, I don't know. There's so many people in here that there's no proven. Why is Najee Harris at RB13 with no?
People think he's going to get all
He's got
the
no
volume.
offensive line, a busted old quarterback. Like,
People that I listen to and respect their opinion have Najee up very high, but I'm worried about Najee. I think that line's still not great. Big Ben, he could struggle a little bit.
I think
They've
Josh
got
Jacobs
a lot of
finishes,
passing options.
I think Josh Jacobs finishes above Swift, Dobbins, Najee Harris, Austin Eckler, and that's about it. So I think he finishes right around RB 12, 13.
Right on the razor's edge there, 14. Huh?
I mean, all these is
maybe
he'll outscore David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, Joe Henderson, all those guys. I'm not even worried about those.
Miles
guys.
Sanders, maybe. I'm not real psyched about Miles Sanders. Mike Davis could sneak
I mean,
in.
here's the thing: of the top 15, there's still 3 of these guys that'll have season-ending injuries.
100%.
So
Absolutely. You've made the case. I think that Josh Jacobs is one of the guys that I'm a little bit worried about his chances to get.
all right, we've turned this into a Josh Jacobs.
It is every time you come to see the show. It's a Josh Jacobs debate. It just degrades into that.
What about Mixon? I think Mixon, if Mixon plays more than 15 games or more than 14 games, he'll finish as an RB1. If he doesn't, he won't.
That's fair. I don't think,
that's
I don't know. I just don't know if he can hold up to that workhorse role. He hasn't been able to do it the last couple of years.
He hasn't been able to stay healthy. It's kind of like OBJ. When he's on the field, he's good. When he's not, no points.
That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
You can't score points if you're not on the field.
100%.
I worry about their offense. I worry about Joe Burrow's health and whether he's going to be able to stay
The best
healthy.
ability is availability.
I like the pause. You nailed it.
Yep.
All
right. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. We enjoyed it.
Definitely appreciate you. Appreciate
you
the
enjoyed it.
comments. If you want to subscribe, feel free. Happy to have you. If you
Hey,
catch us on
Marcy. Oh,
YouTube,
wait.
the likes. Yeah.
I'll post the Discord link here. If any newbies are in here and want to come and hang out,
All right. Hope you liked
I
it.
gotta make sure I'm
You
in the
like
right-
that? You like that?
That wasn't even the right Discord. That would have been weird,
The other Discord.
right? All right, here's the Discord link for all you addicts.
You did it.
Oh, I did it. All right, we will see you on next week's show. If you
Job
got
done.
topics, let us know on the Discord. We'd like to hear. All righty, have a good one, everybody.